Okay, everybody hears me? You hear me? Everybody's okay? Okay, I'm going to do it in English because some of you do not speak Arabic, but I'm ready to answer questions in Arabic and to hear your comments in Arabic. The reason why I'm starting with this, it's not because it's me, but it's a different perspective. I'm not used to wear a suit as a photojournalist. I'm usually right. So this is. I'm not showing you this because of the flak jacket, but mainly because of the camera I have on the helmet. And what I wanted to start with is visual journalism and Shiva journalism. Nowadays, you cannot say, I only take pictures or I only write text. We are in a multimedia era where we have to tell the story with whatever tool we use. So we call it the Shiva journalism because the goddess Shiva is like using different arms and different way of telling the story. So here, it was impossible for me to tell a story of a sniper firing at us. So my camera was rolling, the camera on my forehead was rolling, and then I had like moving images that could tell the story. With the camera, a still camera, it was almost impossible to do so. So let's go back, let's start the workshop. And we're going to do what makes a great photo. Sorry, but the quality of the screen isn't perfect for the pictures, but what we're going to start with is the photo editing. Why I picked the subject of photo editing? Because there is nothing worse than a photographer picking his own pictures. A photographer is a very bad editor because a photographer has a tendency to pick the picture that he wants to show you what he feels through his images and not what he saw. So that's the main problem we see with photographers. So that's why we have a desk with what we call picture editors who pick the best images that the photographer produces with a distance. Picture editors are not involved in the story. They know the story and they know what the best picture is for the story. So what are the elements of a good picture? Okay. What is the photographic process? And what type of coverage do we do? This is the triangle that is part of the third in the image. The rule of the third. Sorry, but I have, oops. Okay, the composition. So I'm a bit slow with this. The composition. The composition is in the image. In the image, we usually stick to the rule of the third. The rule of the third is the most popular rule in photography and in art. We deal with technical quality, composition, and information. That's what makes a good image, a good photojournalistic image. So in the composition, we have the rule of thirds. We'll come back to the leading lines, the triangles, and the background, plus the balance. Let's start with the rule of thirds. Okay, when you take a picture, this is the frame. You have to imagine that you have to share your image in the rule of third, which means horizontal lines and vertical lines. The image goes, if you all see in your cameras, in the back of your cameras, when you have the digital screen, they ask you for rules. If you put the rules, most of photographers don't put the rules in the back of the cameras. If you put the rules, you can, without your imagination working, but just by fixing these rules, you can create the rule of third, which is the 4 points. So when you take a picture, you see, if we go, you can imagine the horizontal lines and the vertical lines, and this is the main subject. Here we go. Okay, that makes a good image, a balanced image. Here it's the same. We have a portrait, and everything fits. Everything is balanced. Same here. You click. You have the story. Now we go to the leading lines. Why is it a perfect image? Because all the lines that your eyes look at go here. So you have all the arrows. This is why I started, if you remember, with a picture with leading lines. Same here. This is an underwater picture, and underwater is very difficult to take. So here you have the leading lines. Later you'll see the editing, which will help you understand why we picked this one. But you have to imagine, when you take the picture, you have to imagine these leading lines. You have to imagine to create the rule of third within your eyesight, you see? The triangle. Here we go. All these things, you only memorize them when you experience. Like with experience, you start having them in your brain. You start looking at pictures differently, because the triangles, the rule of third, everything exists in your visual memory. Another triangle inside a third triangle. Like all these lines lead. The background. This is very important in an image, the background. Sometimes you say, why my background is bad? Why I don't have the correct background? So you have the middle ground, foreground, and background, plus the depth, tridimensional. So this is your background. And this is another background. You see here? Can we go back to, oops, okay. This, you have a background here. Then here, you have the background, which is like in your background, you need information. You can't have a background that lacks of any information, because your eye will get lost. This is where the information is. Okay, you focused here, but your background gives also out of focus information, but the information is there. Here it's the same thing, but that's a bad image with a bad background, because this guy shouldn't have been here, because he's taking the attention. So that's what we call a bad background. It's not balanced. It's also a bad background. And the story is supposed to be here. But by creating a bad background, you killed your picture. This picture has no interest at all, because it has 3 different informations that are totally useless. This is a perfectly balanced image. Now we're going to the balance. A balanced image is where you have 2 subjects on the same level that are totally balanced, and both are related somehow. Now, an imbalanced image, this is a balanced image too, because you have here and you have there. And it stays in the balance, of course. This is what we call an imbalanced image. You know, in photography, it's like driving. If you talk on the phone while you're taking pictures or while driving, you get bad results. So this is what you get, right? Yep, goes down. Because all the weight is on the information on the left. So we talked about technical quality, composition. Now we're going to talk about information. Technical quality, sorry. We talk about the exposure, the sharp in focus, the white balance, and the light. Let's talk about the exposure. It's very difficult when you do ice sport, snow. The snow is white. That means there is like 3 or 4 stops difference between your subject and the floor. So when you underexpose, you get this. When you overexpose, you get the first one. This is the best exposure you can get. So you have to be very careful in the exposure when you shoot. You have to, usually you read the skin of the person. So I have a trick, is when you go to a place where the light is totally unbalanced, you look at your hand, you put the balance, the white balance on the skin, on your own skin. Unless you have different skins, if you're in Africa or something, you better have the skin of the people who are there, and you do your balance on the skin before you start taking pictures. So that's where you fix your white balance, because the skin is the most important thing when you shoot. This is totally underexposed, but in the same time, it's fashion nowadays. Why is it fashion? Because people who shoot tennis, my colleague Marwan is here among us, are bored of shooting tennis and providing the same images. You know, you people need to see different stuff. Because if we send you same images of tennis players every time, you don't look at them anymore. So photographers need to be different. They're artists at the end of the day, you know, because in photojournalism there is also photography, not only journalism. And photography is an art. It shouldn't take over journalism, but it's still an art. And this art is done by, photographers who are artists and need to show something different. So by underexposing tennis images, they mainly showed you the face and the information on the face. Sharp and focus. Well, sport again, because when we talk about focus, we talk about sport images that are usually the most difficult ones to focus with. So this is what we can call a totally out of focus, and this is what we can call full focus. So sport is very difficult when you don't know the sport. When you don't know the sport you're shooting, it's very difficult to cover the sport because you don't know what the athlete is going to do. So sport photographers have different tricks. Like in focus, they pre-focus on the place, on the place where the athlete is going to pass. And nowadays, it's much easier because the autofocus is very fast, is extremely fast. I remember when I started shooting photography, shooting sport, I was doing like the hurdles, and we used to shoot with films, and the motor drive of the camera was slower than nowadays. Today you take like 10 pictures per second. And the photographer who was training me to do sport, he said, you focus on the hurdle, and when the runner passes, you have it focused. But he didn't tell me follow the runner, so I focused on the hurdle, and I waited for the runner to jump over the hurdle. So when we developed the film, I have one leg here, one leg there, and the hurdle was empty. But I had to follow the runner. So nowadays it's much easier. This is what we call the movement effect. Like you follow the skier on a low speed. which makes the athlete, the skier, sharp, but the background is totally out of focus and makes a movement. It creates a movement. The white balance. Well, this is what I was talking to you about, the white balance. You get like the wrong colors when you do the wrong white balance. This is what the uniform of the baseball player is supposed to look like. The light, the texture, the atmosphere, and the depth. Here we have more or less a perfect light. This is very important. Today, you have cameras that read to 12,000, 64,000 ISO. You don't need flash. You need to create an atmosphere in your image. Avoid flash. The flash kills the atmosphere. So if you have a camera that goes very high in sensitivity, you don't need to use flash. This is perfect because it's done without flash. The light that was used is the headlights that are on the forehead of the soldiers, and it creates an atmosphere. This is a composition with all the triangles. The light is there, everything is there, the focus is there. It's absolutely perfect. And the depth of field is there. So we're going to go to the information in the picture. So as I said, we are photojournalists, right? And we have to provide a visual information. We have to tell the story visually. So how do we put information in the story, in the pictures? Does the elements in the frame help us understand what is the story about? It's exactly like when you read the story. I mean, I always refer to the text. You read the text. Do you understand what you're reading, yes or no? Right? A picture is exactly the same. Do you understand what you're looking at or no? So, is it wrestling? No. It's basketball. Right? Now you understand what it's about. So here it's another thing about information. Why is this a perfect picture? All the information is there. But remember what I told you from the beginning. The rules of third, the triangles, and everything are there. Right? Right? See? It's all in here. You look at it, you look at the subject. The subject is straight. Your eye doesn't get lost left and right. Your eye goes straight to the story. And all the elements that come around are there as part of the story. This picture is full of informations, and there is nothing useless in this picture but information. See? It's all in. Wherever you look at, you have an information. Now, how do you want to crop? We're going to talk about crop, okay? Some says we need to do square images nowadays. Okay, why square images? Because Instagram is square. Well, Instagram did not invent anything. Instagram is Hasselblad. Hasselblad was square before Instagram was invented. So we used to shoot square. But why do we crop? To improve the composition, to straighten frames, and to offer more variety. What's more variety? I always tell my students, show me what my eye doesn't see. You want to surprise me? Show me what my eye doesn't see. It's exactly like you're coming back from holidays, and you show your family your holiday pictures, okay? And sometimes they will say, wow. Okay, they look at your pictures, they're bored, and then suddenly they stop, they say, wow. Why do they say wow? Because it's something they're not used to. It's something their eye is not used to. So, you want to improve composition and you want to crop. Let's say this is a picture that everyone takes, right? This lands on a desk. And if an editor looks at this and says, this is no picture, how am I going to make a picture out of this, right? So, first, it's against the rule of third. because it's unbalanced, and there is nothing in it. So I'm going to crop it. We crop it. At least we killed already the useless informations that were the road, etc. We straightened it, and we have an image. See the difference? We straightened the frames, right? Here again, talking on the phone. Oops. That's not forbidden. It's not like I'm altering a picture or something. I'm not doctoring an image. I'm doing nothing. I'm just like straightening up the image because either my phone or my camera was a bit twisted to the right or to the left. Or here we go back to cropping. This is a football image, right? I mean, sometimes in your papers you used to see this, but this is, in my opinion, not a great image that it's an image I can improve by cropping it. So my attention doesn't get lost. We have to offer more variety. Why do we have to offer more variety to our clients? Because most of them do not like to have the same picture on their front pages. Plus, they're lazy. We have to understand that most of our colleagues either are lazy or they don't have time. So when they get an image, they will not crop it. You have to crop it for them. So sometimes the same image is cropped differently and sent, have different versions sent to clients. So here you have the same image that is being cropped differently and with the same information. Cropping again. This is a version of this. Okay? So it's a different version for like we cropped most of the information, but in this version we kept some. And it's a balanced image because we have all the circle. That's the original before the crop. So the guidelines for cropping: do not do square images. That's a rule that goes back to the 90s. Why? Because most of the newspapers were not based on their visual information. Most of the newspapers were based on text. So the image was like filling a blank in the layout of the paper. And they did not like square images. Today, you can do square images because Hasselblad is back to the culture of photography through Instagram, because people are more and more seeing square images, and that doesn't bother anyone. So, but again, when you do a square image out of a regular image, you have to be careful not to ruin the information, right? So this is the original. It's much better than the one I showed you before. But you wanted to make it square and send it on Instagram, nobody will look at it because it lacks of information. And we fixed the quality, and that's the result. Don't crop limbs. This is why. Bad. That's much better. Same here. See? There you go. So we're not going to crop images for the sake of cropping images. If you want to crop, you crop like this. You don't crop the limbs. You leave something. The photographic process is from the idea of taking the picture to the publication. This was taken in the Philippines. Okay, that's the typhoon in the Philippines. And to the front page of the papers. So how does this work? We have the breaking news. Okay, this is an image that was taken in Gaza. And you're going to see, as I told you before, we talked about the variety of pictures on a breaking news. But variety doesn't mean the same ones coming back again and again. It's a variety of the same story. So this is like, look at the pictures, and you're going to see how we edited this. Okay, there's not a single picture that looked like the other one, but they're all coming from the same story. So this is the editing, okay? Now it's a bit small, but the photographer took like 100 images, right? And from the 100 images, okay, we will start editing. So here we have the donkey, here we have the ones you've seen before, here there's a cameraman, so we ejected it, here there's another cameraman, ejected it. Now you're going to tell me why he didn't focus, he didn't frame. There is no time, he has to think, right? So we picked this that you already saw out of the 4. We didn't pick 1, 2, 3 and send it because it's too much work for everyone. So the photographer decided to pick that one. Then he looked again and again. He didn't find anything interesting. He didn't find anything interesting either, but here, we have 1 out of the 4. Why this one? Because, as I told you before, we have the triangles and the rules of third. You will see the rules of third again here. And here, you have the information here and there. You see? We already talked about that. And here, and there, where this is one of the most interesting one because we see the gun. Here, but we have to flip it. Anyway, so this is the way we edit the pictures. We look at see the difference between this, here the limbs are cut, here you have the hand and the hand. So then comes the caption. This is where photographers are most terrible at. Caption. In the caption we need the 5 W's. What, why, where, when, and who. Okay? This is very important. I recommend at the end of the workshop, you go to our exhibition at the AFP photo gallery, and you look at the pictures without reading the caption. And you understand that no picture can stand, photojournalistic pictures can stand without a caption. You know, many would say a picture worth 600 words, right? And I can assure you that 1 word worth 600 pictures. So it goes together. You can't publish a picture today without a caption. It doesn't work. You need information. People need to know what's going on. Because your perspective of an image has nothing to do of what the image means. Everyone has a perspective. And if you go and look at the pictures we exhibited, you will really try to understand. I mean, some of them, you wonder if they were really taken in an Arab country or in the Middle East. You have to read the caption to understand that these pictures were taken in an Arab country. So this is why captions are very, very important. And always source your information. Some of you study journalism. Well, source your information. We need to know who told you what, and if the source is 100% true. So this is what a caption looks like today. Palestinians flee as the car of Hamas leader. We're talking about the pictures I showed you before, right? So you have the where, the date, the when, the who, etc., plus the name of the photographer. Distribution. How do we distribute the pictures? The photographer on the field sent his pictures to the photo desk. Photographer on the field edited his dozen images on the story. He sent it to the photo desk. Photo desk, what do? They send it to the wire and they send it to the archives. But before they do that, they correct the caption that you've seen before. They rewrite it, they sub-edit it, and they make sure that the picture is well framed, well cropped, and if it's not well cropped, they recrop it and they work on the story, on the colors. And from there, it goes to the client. And then it's published. Okay, so here, as I told you before, you have different kind of images, a variety of images. That is like why we did that, because most of the papers, especially in the US, they don't like to have the same picture on the front page. So they use, on the same story, they use different images from the same source, which is AFP, from the same photographer, which was Pedro Ugarte. So here you go, different crop, different images on the same story. Now, we're going to talk about how you cover an event that is planned on advance. We showed you breaking news. Breaking news is not planned in advance. It happens. You're there. It happened. You shoot. You have an event. Let's say Sheikh Mohammed coming to the EMF, right? How a newspaper or an agency is going to cover the visit of Sheikh Mohammed. This is the swearing in of Obama, President Obama. So AFP had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 photographers on site. But before they went on site, they planned the coverage. They planned the coverage, they had the map, and they say, you stand here, you stand there, etc., etc., etc. So these are the pictures that are taken by these different positions. So you have this, you have one in the crowd, you have one in the front, you have another one on the front, you have another one on the side, you have one that is very close, you have another one that's close, etc., etc. And then with such an organization and the perfect setting of photographers, you get the front page of American newspapers, done by a French agency, which is not, it's an international agency, but on an American story, we managed to make the front page of American newspapers, even in Canada. And so this is how you, this is another planned event with a surprise. So you cover the event, and then you get a surprise. That's not expected. Stories. You want to do a story. You want to tell a visual story, right? You have to pick an idea before you tell the story. So the idea here is this guy who collects bottles and pieces of metals and stuff and goes to a junk. So we follow the guy, we follow the story, and every picture we do is an information. It's exactly like you write. You're writing your diary, you're writing your journal, you're writing a story. It's exactly the same. You have to tell every moment visually. So this is a long photo story. Let's talk about ethics and credibility. It's very important today. I mean, it's so easy. It goes back years and hundreds of years ago, since the invention of photography, okay? Propaganda, political pictures, everything. Pictures were doctored, images were doctored. Today, it's easier than before, much easier than before, because you have tools like Photoshop. So you never add or remove elements with Photoshop. You never pose situation pretending to be naturally taken. Don't tell the guy, stand there. It's not good here. Stand there. It's not your role. You're not doing studio photography. You're not doing fashion. You're doing photojournalism. The moment you tell someone to move, or you place someone somewhere else, you have to mention it in the caption. You have to put images into context. Is it really a big demo? Here, I can take a picture of you guys, right? Take like 15 people here and make it like look crowded. And in fact, we're not more than 30. But by reducing the frame and making it look like overcrowded, I'm lying. Thank you. Now I'm open to questions and in Arabic, even if you feel like. Yes.
Thank you. That was very informative. I just wanted to ask if you could explain, or maybe I don't know if you could explain that. How do you explain how credible media outlets are recycling some photos during certain wars? Like, for example, during the last war on Gaza, there were some photos that were actually used, that were actually taken during the war on Syria. And also, there's a I'm not talking about social media and how people share photos. I'm talking about famous news outlets.
You know, it's very easy. I always tell my friends who follow me on Facebook or Twitter, whenever you see a picture that is like going viral, right? You take the picture and you make a Google search, photo Google search, and you know where the picture comes from. Yes, you make a Google search, you click on the camera. When you have the Google search, you click on the camera, and then it uploads the picture you want. And then it's easy. Now, the thing is, again, depends what media outlet you're looking at, okay? If you're looking at the major media outlets, and if you realize that the major media outlets did not use the image, that means it's fishy somewhere, and there is a problem. If they used it, then relax. I can't hear. Could you give her the, I have a...
But I'm talking about major news outlets that actually used
BBC?
Recycled...
You're talking about the...
No, certain Arabic channels.
But there was an issue with like one picture that was published by the BBC about Syria, and it was about Iraq. It happens, but that's not like a regular thing. But things happen. If you Google the image, you know where it comes from. And sometimes we do that. When we get pictures from sources we're not sure of, we Google the image. And it's very often that some agencies too fall in the trap because they use images from handout from like different organizations that are not very reliable. And so it's really be careful. And when an image goes viral, like you have the I don't know if you've seen it. It was last week, 2 kids hugging Vietnam. So it went viral. It went viral saying it's Nepal, and please give money to, it really went viral. And in fact, it was a picture taken in Vietnam. It has nothing to do with Nepal. Yes. I don't know where's the microphone. I don't know who wants to. Yeah, next.
Thank you. How can we take better photographs on Instagram since it constrains us with the square and we want to publish news and it just destroys us?
The rule in Instagram, this is like easy, huh? This is, I let you, this is, you need to understand something. For me, it's a camera with a phone feature, okay? I use it as a camera more than I use it as a phone. I barely call people, okay? So, this is a camera. You can adapt to square, and you can adapt, you have when you shoot, you have square, photo, etc. Now, nothing says that on Instagram you cannot put normal images. It's up to you. If you want to be featured on Instagram one day, inshallah, you put square images, because they don't like to feature non-square images, because on their page, only the square images fit. So that's the rule. But it doesn't matter. You can put normal images. You go to, what is it called? There is a software called, oops.
But it sometimes crops important stuff because it's
Sorry?
The problem with Instagram, it crops important stuff. So it's controlling you rather than controlling it.
That's a bad image. When you do when you crop a square image the wrong way, it becomes a bad image. So don't put it. I took pictures on the beach yesterday, okay? And out of I don't know, 12, 15 pictures I took, only 2 worked as square images. I'm featured on Instagram. Okay, they featured me and they asked me not to publish normal images. They asked me to put square images so they can put them on their page. So by walking on the beach, I started seeing square. You know, with experience, you see square or you see normal images. And when you see square images, you say, okay, this is an image that works square. That's an image that works horizontal. That's an image that works vertical. It's with experience, your eye will start like, you know, your visual memory will start like working in the same way I showed you. You have the rule of the third will automatically fit in your brain. So that's the square. I mean, you can't take any square for the sake of taking square images.
Because I'm talking about photos taken earlier and then uploaded on Instagram. Yeah,
doesn't
that's
work.
the ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't
And
work.
from a photographer's perspective, when you put a landscape photograph or a portrait and then you have this extra white space,
Yeah,
does it affect visually?
It's like cropping. As I showed you, it's a bad crop.
Yeah, that's the one. When you enlarge it and then start cropping, then it damages the
It's
photograph.
a bad crop. Leave it as it is.
Okay.
Leave it as it is. Don't crop it because you want to put it on Instagram. Just leave it as it is. The gentleman.
Thank you, Patrick. Anas here. I just want to add to your comment, which is not only you can search pictures, if you right-click on any picture, anywhere, right-click, search Google for this image, and then you will see everything related to that image. I use it a lot.
But some of where the websites just kill the
sometimes.
IPTC and the metadatas and
Absolutely,
and you can't find anything.
it's so much helpful.
Yeah.
It's so much helpful. Thank you.
Yes,
Hi.
sure. After the lady.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, where do we draw the line as journalists between creating the story and just reporting the story? Like when reporting conflict, a lot of journalists would like to add a dramatic flair to the picture. So like, for example, if there's a wrecked house, they would add a child's toy to the image just to add to the
They
dramatic.
add what? Sorry.
They add a child's toy or any, like, you know what I mean, to give the impression that a child died in this place. So where do we draw
that's when I said, do not show some.
Of course.
Exactly.
But
Do not show something different.
how do we self-censor ourselves so that we do not
Why
create a story that's not there instead of just reporting it? And
You know-
if, as a journalist, I only report the story, my story will be similar to all the reporters. So how do I draw the line without being unethical and making my own story different?
Well, you have to be truthful with yourself. You're doing it for yourself. It's like you're gonna lie because others are lying.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I want the story to stand out without being unethical. So how do I draw the line?
Why would you need to be unethical for the story to stand out?
No, because doing something like that, adding a dramatic object, would make it different from other stories.
Well, it depends if you're working for a tabloid or you're working for a regular paper. You know, depends on your headline. You can sex up your headline in a tabloid and make it like a dramatic when the picture or your story are not dramatic at all. And you have to accept sometimes, and this is most of the time I tell my colleagues, you went on a story and nothing happens. Just accept it and get back home. Don't try to make it more dramatic because either you arrived late or nothing happened or finish, we're done. We're not gonna lie because the competition is better, right? We have to accept the fact that said we arrived late or we were not there, okay? Or find another source. You know, most of the journalists in a newsroom or in a newspaper or an agency, whatever, do not accept the fact that, well, they went there, but their employer found a different source because either they were late or because they didn't know how to cover it. But we need the story. So we went to another source. We went to a stringer, so you have to accept that. It's part of the job. It's humility. You know, swallow your ego. And this is how you're going to go forward. If you keep like, you know, want to be a star, find another job, you know? Tu voulais poser une question? Oui? Mais j'entends pas, il faut le micro.
Can a photojournalist, a
In
photo
English.
reporter, be a good photo editor?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to be. You can be a very good photo editor when you don't edit your own stuff. You know, I'm wearing different hats with AFP, right? Can be a photographer sometimes, can be a manager sometimes, and I can be an editor sometimes, photo editor. But I never edit my own stuff. And I make it a point to accept the decision of the desk to dump some of my images because they find them uninteresting. Because again, the problem we have is we live a moment, okay? And most of the time, we do not know how to make you feel that we live that moment through our images. So we start sending like tens and dozens of images. Unfortunately, with digital, you can send like as much as you can. I'm from the old school. I used to go on a very tight edit because I had to print, to develop the films and to print. So I couldn't like, but nowadays you can like have hundreds of images. And if you can't make up your mind and you're very excited and you want to make me feel and show me how you lived that moment and you want to send images and images to make me feel that, yes, you went through this and through that, I'm not interested. I want 1, 2, 3 images. Summarize your story in few images. So it's very difficult. And most of the photographers, even the senior ones, do not accept the decision of the desk. But they don't realize that when you're like thousands of miles away from the scene, what happens to you, we don't care. What we need is the story, and nothing else but the story. So we're humans at the end of the day, right? So what we live is very difficult to...
I know you are on Instagram and stuff. Do you think Instagram, and this is the question nobody will like here, is actually killing the photography art?
Nothing is killing photography. I think Instagram is a communication through images. You know, it's part of the social networks, but it's where people communicate through images. It's fascinating to look at how people, other bad or good photographers, communicate through images. It's a visual communication. Some show you their bedroom, some show you their showers, some show you what their holidays. I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating how people can communicate. For me, it's, you know, in the morning I look at 3 things. First is Twitter. So I take the pulse of the world. Okay? Second is Facebook, another pulse of the world, to see what's going on. Third is Instagram, because I look at pictures. I see what's there. It depends also who you follow. You know, on Instagram you have from Kim Kardashian to the Ayatollah, I don't know what. So it's all there. It all depends who you follow and what you want to look at. And that's what's beautiful with the internet. And like everything is available. Don't blame people for putting pictures of their shower. Don't look at them. Go somewhere else. Nothing forces you to go look at Kim Kardashian. Go look at a World Press photo winner. Follow a World Press photo winner. You don't need to follow. So don't blame them or criticize them for being there, because it's open to everyone. So this is how you make this is your culture. At the end of the day is how you go buy a book, right? But Instagram is free. You can't blame bad writers for writing a book. Don't buy the book. Just go buy the book you want to read. And social networks are exactly the same. Follow the people you want to follow and forget about the rest. We're done. Thank you very much. Thank you.